How's she going, eh? Alright, I got this tractor that was given to me. This is an older horizontally opposed twin that was actually apparently rebuilt and then left outside for some reason to rot, which is kind of stupid. What I want to do is pull this flywheel because the starter does not work. Let's hook up the battery and I'll show you. I'm sort of half-ass connected. The clicky clicky. I had to get her moving. She was a little tiniest bit sticky, so I put some Marvel Mystery Oil down the old hole. If nothing else, I'll just take this engine off and keep it. Sorry guys, business got kind of busy there for a while. I don't know how many of you know, but I quit my job last January and right before COVID, which was excellent timing as usual for me. I was given this tractor to fix, but there was no fixing it. I know it doesn't look that bad right now, but starter didn't work. It was just disgusting. This thing had been left outside, which you shouldn't do if you have a tractor, by the way. The engine was rebuilt and then they went and left it outside and never used it. The joy, I want to tell you the serious joy about this. This flywheel was so horrifying to get off. I don't know if you can see all those pound marks on there from the sledgehammer. I had to heat and beat this thing like you have never seen to try and get it off. This wasn't big enough. Hold on. Valve spring compressor. Then I went and did what I shouldn't have done. I bought this turd here from Harbor Freight. This steaming pile. Here's what's left of the bolts. Tore the bolt in half. Gotta get some new bolts. This thing was, you can see how bent it is, but I swear to God, it is bent like 10 times that much. It was like a U shape by the time I was done with it, so I tried to put it back on upside down and bend it back. These holes are too big. If you run this bolt in here, and then you try and tighten it, it just, look at that. How are you supposed to tighten that? It's just going to pull through the hole. It's stupid. Bad design. The weird part is, it wouldn't be that difficult to fix some of this stuff. Tighten those holes up a little bit. So I have to use all these washers. They give you washers. They're literal like 3/16 washers. They're like a quarter of the size of this. And a tenth as thick. So they just bend into oblivion. So that was my second attempt. Then I finally gave in and just bought the Wright Briggs puller, which is actually cheaper than that Harbor Freight thing, so I don't know why I just didn't do that in the first place. There's the actual puller for this. There's 3 different sizes, so if you gotta buy one of these, make sure you get the right one. This is large, which is for this flywheel. There's another flywheel that has built-in fans on it. I think that's a medium-sized one. So that just screws in there, pushes itself off of here. That is not supposed to look like that. But anyway, tighten it down, push it off. Well, that didn't make much difference either. By about 8 hours of trying to get this thing off, I finally just went on rampage with this hammer, went and bought a new bottle of gas for the map torch, and just sat here for about, I don't know, half an hour like this, till the goddamn thing, I knew it was good and hot, and then I dumped some water on it, tried to cool it off quickly. That seemed to make no difference. I'm sure it did make a difference. It must have loosened it up a little bit, but I just pounded the living shit out of this flywheel. Just literally beat the hell out of it. So I finally get it off, and I pull it over here, and it's starting to bind up, like moving it back and forth while I'm trying to get it off. Well, all these magnets fell off from all the heat. Yesterday I took a grinder and cleaned all these edges in here, all the way around. I think one magnet had stayed on, so thankfully I had something to go off of, but it didn't help that much. Went and bought some new epoxy and just tried to space them as evenly as humanly possible and pushed them on there real good with the hoping that I would have the clearance. So I glued that last night. Seems pretty decent today. The alternator, I don't know. I thought it would be more damaged than it is, since it's right underneath that flywheel, and I was torching the living shit out of this thing. And the whole reason to get this flywheel off in the first place was to get to this nightmare starter, which wasn't working at all. I took it all the way apart. The brushes were seized and like full of grease. You can take these 2 bolts out right here, and this whole thing will come apart. It's a bit of a pain in the ass to put back together. You got to kind of hold the brushes in while you put it back on the shaft, and then you got to push them on with like a brush. I pulled the heads off. They were covered in crud. You know, just the old black fuel and oil crap. I don't know how good the rings are on this thing. Look at that. Crust. The crust on it. I don't know how long this thing was ran for, but look at this head. It's like pieces of it missing from sitting out in the rain for so long. We'll clean it up. I already cleaned the other one up. We'll clean this side up and order some new head gaskets. All right. Look at that. Yummy. Hopefully thing's going to have enough compression to run. At this point, we're waiting for head gaskets to come. So, what say we take this carburetor off and clean it?